this is Stolled Welcome, and Bloomburrow's coming out a little bit later today, and I figured I'd just go over, my top 10 cards that I'm looking forward to. That's not necessarily like the best cards. It's more like the build around, like what I want to build around. Obviously there's some, really good banger cards that were showcased in the preview events that some of the streamers got to do. And those are cool, but I wanted to kind of look at some of the off-brand, maybe discount bin type of cards. So the first up, we have the Dewdrop Cure. 2 mana, 1 white, sorcery. You can gift a card, and then you can return up to 2 target creatures with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the gift was promised, return up to 3 target creatures with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. So, you get 3 creatures back for 1 card. Pretty good deal, and you give them a draw. Yeah. You just gotta build small enough deck, like Mono White Humans is pretty much there, or Mono White Soldiers. I think most of their creatures are 2 mana or less. Obviously, their rotation is happening, so there's some changes going on, but, that's one card that I'm really excited about. There was another card that I used to play that you could return, I think it was like 3 mana value worth of stuff. So basically, for 3 mana, you would get 3 1/1s back, or a 1/1 and a 1 mana cost and a 2 mana cost creature. So this is like all those things, but even better. And then for the common good, XX and the green. And it's a sorcery, and you create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. I'm not really concerned about that part. It sounds cool, but that's way too expensive. And then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn, and you gain a life for each token you control. That's the part that's really important. A 1 mana, make all your tokens indestructible so they don't get board wiped, and you gain a life for each token that you control. So if you're just going big wide with tokens, there's that bunny card where you make 3 bunny tokens for 3 mana. And then if you had Mondract out or something like that, or whatever, you have six creatures out, 6 token creatures out, then for each. Oh, and it's not token creatures either. Just noticing that now. So you gain 1 life for each token you control. So if you got clue tokens, you got food tokens. Even better. I wasn't even thinking of that. So that's even cooler that you can save your stuff. So, and you could pay X and copy a token, which, maybe not. Next up, the Innkeeper's Talent, 1 mana, 1 green. It's a class enchantment. When you cast it at the beginning of your combat, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Pretty sweet. Most creatures that do this cost 3 mana, on a regular basis, and this is 2 mana, so it's 1 less. You don't get a body on the board, but you get something that's a lot harder to remove, hopefully. And then you could level it up for level 2 for 1 green. Permanents you control with counters on them have Ward 1. Those are both interesting things, but we're not really looking forward to those 2 things. They're kind of just, gravy on top of the mashed potatoes, but the mashed potatoes is a 3 mana, 1 green to level 3, so it's costing you 3, 4, 5, 6 mana total. But if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of these kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. So there's a lot to build around with this bad boy. Turn 2 you drop it down. Turn 3, you play your 3rd mana, you level it up to 2. And then turn 4, you level it up to 4. And then you cast a Planeswalker and you ultimate it. Because when you cast a Planeswalker, you'll double the counters that it gets put on it, and you'll ultimate it on the same turn you cast it. Or, if I put a poison counter on you, now all my poison counters are 2. So, yeah. So if I proliferate, proliferate's doubled. So there's just a lot of stuff that this thing, sure you have to get there, so you have to survive to turn 4, you know. But once you do, or maybe even survive to turn 5, but hopefully by turn 5, you're banging it out, and you're playing green, so maybe turn 2 you ramp to 3 mana, turn 3 you cast this and level it up, and then turn 4, yeah. But yeah, looking forward to building around that one. Jolly Gerbils, a 1 mana, 1 white, 2/3 hamster citizen. Now, citizens are kind of interesting to me. I wonder if there's enough creatures that are citizens. But this is whenever you give a gift, you draw a card. So, the drawback of a gift is you give them a food token, you give them a fish token, 1/1 fish token, or you give them a card. So in this case, you want, I just think you can make a really nice gift deck, and you get to draw cards, so you're not really punished for giving the gift, right? You also get a card if you're giving them a 1/1 fish. There's that one card where I guess that's a draw card. I was gonna say the sweep the board card, but I think that's a draw. But yeah, anything that gives a fish, then you draw a card for giving them a fish, or you draw a card for giving them food. Pretty cool. Definitely something that no one's talking about. 2/3 body for 2 mana is pretty good too, right? And if you get some citizen synergies in there, also Delny doubles up because it's power 2. So if you had Delny out, you draw 2 cards for giving them a gift of a little fish token. That sounds pretty good. Kitza, the Otter Ball Elite, 1 mana, 1 blue, 1/3, legendary Otter Wizard. And, this was probably covered in a lot of people's videos, but, the ability to copy Sorcery Instant, and you choose new target. So the idea is you pump this up, you just get 1+1/+1 counter on Kitza, or an equipment that gives +1/+1. Then you cast a spell, and the prowess trigger will happen, and then it'll have 3 power, and you could just copy that spell. And then there's that other otter, I think it's an otter, that whenever you cast a spell, you untap, or I don't know if it's you cast it where it targets it or something, but basically you untap all your creatures. So basically you could copy, cast a spell, copy it, and then untap your creatures, and then cast another spell and copy it. So it's pretty crazy. But I think there's a lot of good stuff you can do with Kitza. Chandra is a 6 mana creature, 6 mana planeswalker that doubles up your spells. This is just 2 mana, so sure you have to spend the mana to do it. There's things to reduce ability costs, down to 1, or just the jewel, Enigma Jewel, pays for the cost, so it's just free. Very interesting. Obviously, prowess and vigilance is whatever's. Moving on to the Mockingbird, X in a blue. It's a 1/1 bird bard flying, and when you have it, when Mockingbird enters as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with a mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except as a bird, in addition to other types, and it has flying. And so you can, you pay X is 0, and you can make a copy of a 1 mana cost creature. And then if X is 2, you could do a 2 mana cost creature, and it gets flying, type of thing. So I think there's just a lot of things that you want to copy. So for one, if you cast a creature, you definitely have the mana to cast it because you spent 4 mana to cast a creature, and you still have 4 mana, to cast the Mockingbird to copy it next turn. And, so, that's one good thing, so anything that you want to double up, I think we'll definitely try to find some ways to mock the opponents. And 3, the Salvation Swan, 3 mana, 1 white, 3/3 bird cleric, flash flying. When the Salvation Swan or another bird you control enters, exile Up to one target creature you control without flying, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with flying counter at the beginning of the next end step. So yeah, made the defender deck. Um, you know, the bird defender, just waiting for this card. So, definitely gonna add this card to that set. And that's just like my initial thoughts of some wacky, weird defender deck that no one plays defender. So just imagine exiling, a tally or, you know, anything else that doesn't have flying that you want it to get flying on it, right? Like any creature you think of that if it gets flying, it's just broken. This comes onto the battlefield and gives it flying, right? And then it's comes back into the battlefield. So anything with a blink effect or anything you want to get flying. The Stargaze, X and 2 black sorcery, and you look at twice of X cards from the top of your library. Put X cards from among them into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard, and you lose X life. There's like 2 cards that I think of when I think of this card. One is Rowan. So, whenever you take damage, you could tap him, and then your black and red spells are that much cheaper to cast. And then the other one is. Why can't I think of it? Traxa? No. Ashiok. So, Ashiok, whenever you lose life, you just exile cards. So, you could draw as many cards as you want, exile, that many cards from your graveyard, and if you have, that class out where Ashiok just ultimates when you cast him, and then you just, mill the opponent out. So two initial thoughts on that, but I think being able to draw cards and losing life, with the way the bats are, where you have so much life gain and stuff, where they don't even care. So who cares if you lose 3 or 5 life, or just a little bit of life. You X is 3. You look at 6 cards, and you get to draw 3 of those. So pretty good. And Ren the Relentless, Vren, 2, 1 blue, 1 black, 3/4 legendary rat rogue, ward 2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it instead. So Kamano versus Carcassonne, crazy stuff. People hate it, and this creature has it. And then at the beginning of each end step, you create a 1/1 rat token creature, X1/1 rat token creatures, where they get +1/+1 for each other rat you control, and where X is the number of creatures you control that were exiled this turn. They're exiled because they died. So if you kill your opponent's creatures, you make rats. So you can make, you kill one of their creatures, you make 1 rat that could be like a 5/5 rat if you have other rats out. It's at least going to be a 2/2 rat the first time you do it. And then the second time you do it, it's going to get 2+1, so it'll be a 3/3 rat. But if you kill 2 in one time, you're going to make 2 2/2s, I guess. Yeah. I don't really like the blue part of the rat, but maybe we can make it work. And Whiskervale Forerunner, 3 mana, 1 white, 3/4 mouse bard creature, and when Forerunner becomes a target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a mana 3 or less from among them, and put it into the battlefield. And if you don't, you just put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in random order. So you get to look at the top 5 cards of your library and draw a card. I equipped it, put an equipment on this, and now it has Valiant. I, do something on the opponent's turn to target it, and then I put it into the battlefield. If you have a way to target your creature on the opponent's turn, you could put a mana value 3 or less creature onto the battlefield. Instant speed. Pretty nuts. Oh, and that's it. So, I just wanted to take some time also to appreciate some of the artwork. Some really cool artwork. I really like these little card things that show off the art. It's really cool. Yeah, just figured, take a look at that. There's a lot of other cards that are, gonna be really good. I don't know how good the set's gonna be. There's a lot of going wide strategies, and it could just end up like sweepers, or I mean, we already have. We were playing a lot of spot removal, so at least we get some cool artwork. But yeah. This has been told. Oh yeah, one more thing. You should leave a comment on what you think my first deck's gonna be for the new set. I wanted to see what people think. I have a couple ideas right now. I'm not really sure. It depends on what I open in the packs and how I'm feeling tomorrow. Well, I guess this morning, even though I'm recording this yesterday. But yeah, what do you think my first deck will be? I don't think you'll be able to guess it, but we'll see. But let's see what we can brew up.